Welcome to the King of Iron Fist Tournament 7. Armor King. Armor King. Get ready for the next battle.
Alright, today I'm gonna teach you about Armor King. There have been a lot of people who ask me on how to play him, what his best tools are, and everything like that. So, as usual, I'm gonna go through the move list together with you and explain the different options you have. Alright. So first comes the classic 1-2. You can use it as a 10-frame punish, but there's better stuff out there. 1-2 on its own I would only use if you expect your opponent to block and you want to step right after, because like his down forward 1 as well, it's -1, that makes it ideal for sidestepping right after. 1-2-1. 1-2-1 you can either do the full string immediately, or you can delay the last hit quite a bit. If the last hit connects on counter, it results in that hard knockdown kind of state, where you gain massive advantage on counter hit, but it doesn't give you anything guaranteed. So if I try to follow up with something like this, it's gonna get blocked. The knockdown state just shows that your opponent is massively in minus and you're in plus. So right after you can either go for guaranteed counter hits if they try to interrupt, guaranteed pressure. So for example, forward 4 would be a great option. If they try to press anything, they're gonna eat forward 4 and counter it. Or against very defensive opponents, you go for an instant Shining Wizard. So even if they try to interrupt, because instant Shining Wizard is 10 frames on startup on its own, and you are, I think it was plus 30, yeah, plus 31, there's more than enough time to get the input out. Also, on block -5, you can step to the side if your opponent doesn't go for jab heavy strings. So against strings that start with jabs. Then you can still move to the side, otherwise I wouldn't recommend doing so. Alright, 2-1. 2-1 is your main 10 frame punish, leaves you at +7. Right after, your best counters would be down forward 2 and down forward 3. If you want to mix up your opponent, you can either, yeah, I would recommend going for down 3 +4. While doing that, he completely crushes highs as well. Yeah, you could go for a grab immediately right after. There are a lot of people who are going to eat that. People who are familiar with Armor King are gonna hop kick or sidestep or crouch and while standing punish out of Spite Roll. So don't get too predictable with that. Rather check with guaranteed counter hits or mids. Also, on block -1, most people think that you're worse than on block. But this makes it one of his best moves to sidestep right after, so you can really harass your opponent with sidestep game. 1 plus 2, 2. That string is risky to use. It's safe on block, yes, and you can move around after because it's only -3. Also, you get 2 stomps guaranteed, should it connect, or a ground throw attempt. However, because the animation takes so long, most people are gonna duck the second hit. If you got people who duck the second hit, you go for the mid version. The mid version is unsafe on block though, so it will get punished. On hit though leaves you +8, so you can set up some nasty counter at game or the usual pressure, throw mix-up game, stuff like that. Also, if you only do the first move on its own, it will leave you at -10. So you can just do the first to kind of check what the reaction of your opponent is, if he's going to duck or not, and then for the next time, as the match naturally progresses, you can decide if you're going for the mid-mid or high-high version, depending on the first test shot, basically, to show what your opponent's reaction is gonna be. Also, if you press 1 plus 2 and hold back, you're gonna end up in back turn stance, where you can either go for a mid launch, which is highly unsafe, or back turn 4, which is safe due to pushback against most characters who are not very large in size, so against smaller characters their jab attempt is most likely gonna whiff. And if you do it from a bit more range, it becomes safe against every character except Fahkumram, I think. Also, you've got down 4 as a good option to mix your opponent up for some annoying frame traps, because if they try to interrupt there and you're +3, you get white standing 2 uncounted, which results in doing huge amounts of damage. So yeah, hurts. 3 plus 4. So 3 plus 4 is pretty risky, because at -7 you don't have enough time to still turn around in time to block. On hit you're +3, so you could trade with his back turn 3, should you hit. If you connect on block, you're pretty much dead though. So there you kinda need to decide. There's like a mind game between you and your opponent going on. Is he going for a fast mid, like down forward 1 or shoulder? Then you're gonna eat it. You're not gonna be able to escape that. If he is going for jab strings or strings that start with highs, you can crouch away, basically, back into block. If he's going for launcher, and it's not a 14, or no, even if it is a 14 frame launcher, you can still go back into block. So there you kinda need to know your opponent, what he's going for and whatnot. So if he's going for high, you could crouch away and while standing punish. If he's going for fast mids, you're gonna eat those. If he's going for mid launchers, you will be able to block them and then punish them for the launch attempt. If you hold the button, you get an unbreakable throw. That one can only be evaded by crouching. Also, the stomps are not guaranteed, but there it basically becomes how should I say, an Oki mix-up for you and your opponent. Because, as you can see, if he tries to stand up, sometimes he moves to the side to actually stand up. So sometimes mids are guaranteed still and sometimes they are not. So if they try to stand up immediately, you go for the shoulder. If they try to block, you go for the shoulder. If they stay on the ground, you harass them with 1 or 2 stomps. The more stomps you go for, the riskier it gets. Most of the time, 1 stomp is always guaranteed. 2 are guaranteed in certain situations, like after 1 plus 2, 2. sometimes you only get one guaranteed throw. So in that situation, one would be the most you get. If your opponent decided to side roll to the side, the second stomp would whiff and they would be able to punish you quite horrendously. So watch out for that. Yeah, then you've got the body press. That move I don't really use. I don't see a use for it either, because if I want to finish a combo with style, I would go for 3+4/2 instead. However, on block 3+4/2 very minor, so you're guaranteed to eat a grounded hit, and the OP you end up in is pretty horrific as well, because if you try to stand up immediately, you're gonna get launched or eat guaranteed mids. So when you decide to stand up, you need to carefully select your timing should that connect on block. If the flip connects on hit, the follow-up is guaranteed. If the hit here connects, as you can see, it is not guaranteed, not even on counter, because it's too slow. 3+4/2 on hit always connects well, and on counter I think it does slightly more damage. Yeah. Alright. 1+4, this one you're going to mainly use at the wall or for setups at some points. It tracks to the side quite well as well. Opponents can jab you out of it, however, for float combos, so watch out for that. 4-1 is your long range 15 frame punish, because sometimes you're just not in range for hop kick launch, or sometimes you're just missing the execution for dark upper punish. And that's when you go for that. You also use this to go for wall carry, like in the usual combo. If you don't go for crouch dash 1, you use that for wall carry. It carries quite far. Second is a high though, so it can be ducked and launch punished. So don't throw it out all nilly-willy. Use with care. Also, you can highly delay the second hit. If your question is if you can hit confirm it, that's a huge no. You need to commit to it. As you can see, I only delayed a little bit and it still gets blocked. Forward 3-4-3. So this one on counter becomes a natural string. On block it's safe at -7, you have no time to move around though, but you could go for parry setups, punch parry setups. The last hit is a high though, so people are going to duck that. What you can do though, if you input the full string and then hold back, you cancel out of the last hit. If you decide to go for it, I would suggest going back into block just to see what your opponent's reaction is right after. And when you finally analyze what they are going for, you handle it accordingly. So if you think they're going to try and interrupt you in the future because they are lashy kind of people, then you finish the string. If you think, alright, they're very defensive, then you can cancel into grab or lows. However, you want to go past the defense. So, forward 4, on hit, very plus. On hit, feel free to mix or go for counters, however you'd like. Down forward 3 would be his heaviest hitting counter hit in that situation. On counter hit, you get that knockdown into either guaranteed grab attempt. I say attempt because ground grabs can be broken. Or you go for guaranteed stomps. Here, only one stomp is guaranteed though. should you decide to go for 2, your opponent will be able to side roll that, as you can see. So only 1 stomp is guaranteed, keep that in mind. 1 plus 2, 2 stomps are guaranteed, right? But here on counter only 1 stomp. Very, very important to keep that in mind. If you mess that up, you give your opponent an opportunity to launch you for free. Or get a guaranteed back grab. So be very, very careful. I can't stress enough. So, forward 4, great pressure tool. You could go for down forward 1. And you would trade with a while standing 4 of your opponent, I think. Yeah. If your opponent like decides to stay in crouch, you could go for crouch grabs, mids. However, after forward 4, I would suggest going for sidestep movement. Because if your opponent tries to go for while standing 4 or stuff like that to interrupt you, their while standing 4 is gonna whiff and you can punish them accordingly for it. Also, because it puts them into crouch, this is your lockdown tool, one of your main lockdown tools. Because your opponent won't be able to sidestep right after. So if you go for sidestep right after, or have tools that are very steppable, I can't talk today, or tools that are very steppable in general, you can use them in these situations, because your opponent won't be able to properly sidestep there. Also, this on a floor break stage will floor break. I would not recommend doing that though, because there are better options. Like in combos, your grab most of the time is the highest damaging option, and at the wall, the leg jack combination wall break, floor breaks as well. So yeah. Then we've got his forward 1+2. It's his power crush, it's there, but it sucks because the stomps are not guaranteed. Grab attempts are not guaranteed. It's a shitty, very, very shitty power crush. Comes out very slow at 20 frames as well, so most of the time you're just going to get interrupted. Forward 1+4 is your main 13 frame punisher. If you know your opponent's frames and know that he is -13, always go for the shoulder. It's your one of your main punish tools, together with back 1-2, but not that bit later. Also, you can wall break using that if you wall splitted your opponent. And in certain follow-ups you get a guaranteed shoulder as well, but more to that later. Down forward 1 is one of your main pressure tools. It's mid, it's -1, it's great. After that, feel free to sidestep. If you expect your opponent to not use a mid, but use a high instead, or if you really want to fuck with your opponent, you could go from down forward 1 into sidestep down 3-4. And if they try to press anything at all and it disconnected and countered, you get 3 mix-up opportunities. Be it grabs, be it mids, be it lows, you can feel free to do whatever you want basically at that point. Down forward 2. Down forward 2 is unsafe on block, you're going to get punished for that. On hit you're +4 though, you can't go for mid countered. The only counter you would be able to go from here would be back 1, which you get a combo from as well. On countered, you get a small combo, as you can see. You could go for the finishing grab as well, but it's a bit tricky. Yeah. Does good damage, but it's tricky. On stages with walls, I would recommend going for the alternate combo instead, because it does good damage and gives you additional wall carry. So the grab ender you only do if you're confident in your execution and are sure that you won't be able to get your opponent to a wall. Otherwise, you go for wall carry one instead. Down forward 3. So this one is your the heaviest hitting counter tool in his whole kit. If you manage to connect this on counter hit, the damage you get from that is pretty nuts. If I'm able to land that. Oh my god. Might take me a while. I think it was around 80 damage or something. If there's a wall nearby, it gets a bit easier. Yeah, 80 damage. Alright. On normal hit, you're +5, so feel free to pressure right after, or go for down forward 2 as a counter hit. Even if you should trade with your opponent, you still have enough time to go for the pickup, so you should do fine. On block it's -5. You can sidestep if you know that there's no jab strings coming. Otherwise you need to play a bit more defensively. Down forward 1+2, -7. Very slow at 23 frames. It's a homing mid though, and it gives you a guaranteed Oki setup should your opponent decide to immediately stand up. So as you can see, mids become guaranteed because of the Oki situation here. If you're very fast, you can go for grab attempts as well, or if you're close to the wall. So there's a little trick I've discovered. Oh no, I'm gonna show it later when we're on the stage with walls. If I'm just gonna explain it that way, you probably won't get it. Alright, yeah. So, -7 on block, it's a pretty shitty homing move. You can, however, use it from max distance to kind of use it as a keep out tool. Otherwise there isn't really much use for that move. There's another use for it, but we're gonna cover that a bit later. Frankensteiner you're going to use against opponents who are really good at breaking grabs and are playing an overall very defensive playstyle. You use it in setups as well, otherwise using this out of neutral is pretty risky. Gives you nothing guaranteed though, except if you're close to the wall, then you get a guaranteed back turn 4, and sometimes even back turn 3, but that depends on the situation and how close your opponent is to you. So this is one of my favorite strings to annoy opponents. Uncountered, the full string becomes guaranteed, as you can see. Leaves you at +6, so you can go for down for 2 as counter hit, back 1, or just go for the usual pressure. On block, however, jab string punishable. It starts with a dick jab, which is a special mid, so it can get low parried, so watch out for that. after certain strings like 2-1 or down forward 1, so strings that are a bit minus but still leave you enough time to move around a bit. After those, you can sneak in one knee lift combination. Wasn't there another thing? Oh, I remember I had a string that was -5 or so, but I can't remember which one it was. I think it was actually the dark knee lift. So what catches many people off guard is if you go for a dark knee lift and then immediately for that. So the idea behind that is if they try to throw out any kind of jabs or stuff like that, they're gonna whiff the jabs, right? And you're gonna whiff your dick jab on purpose, basically. Because there is some pushback to the move. The dick jab is always gonna whiff, but the mid is gonna connect. And if... God damn it. Yeah. Still minus 10 on block, as you can see. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, because of the pushback, if you're confident in your backdash execution, you can theoretically go for backdashing after that immediately. Very difficult to pull off though, but if you can do that, you're pretty much untouchable with Armor King. If you're -5 or stuff like that, yeah. If you're -4, -5 and immediately go for backdash movement with Armor King, and you're great at doing so, you become untouchable. You can always keep your opponent at a certain range. Yeah. Then we have down 2, 4, 3. -11 on block. If you do the first two, it's even worse. You become launch punishable against certain characters. What I can recommend though is just using down 2 as a poke. You can also decide if you recover, like if you... how should I say? You can also... Like theoretically, you could go for backdash movement, but it's risky in that situation because you need to stand up first basically, and that takes some time. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. However, you can decide if you want to stay on crouch. So whenever you throw out a down 2, you kinda need to gamble a bit because it gets difficult. If you can visually confirm the hit, you stay in crouch and mix your opponent from there with full crouch game, right? If it gets blocked, you always stand up back into block, however. Also, should this connect on hit, guaranteed while standing to counter it. Or, how was it? +5, and that was 16 frames, yeah. Or guaranteed hop kick right after. Though the trade can be a bit... no, there should be no trade. So if this connects and you do an immediate hop kick and your opponent tried anything at all or decided to stay in crouch for whatever reason, you get the guaranteed launch. Okay, down 3. So down 3 leaves you at +1. If you're great at backdashing, you could backdash right after, but you would need an insane amount of execution. I personally don't have. I don't know about you. You might have that execution. On hit, feel free to harass your opponent with strings that start with jabs, so strings that are 10 frames or so. You could go for back 1 as well, because back 1s in this game, for some reason, sometimes crush highs. It's very, very weird. So going for back 1 can be very powerful in that situation. You can go for throw mix-up as well. However, the only throw that's uninterruptible is the Giant Swing or a buffered Shining Wizard. The other throws are at 11 frames and, as you can see, or 12, and are too slow. Instant Shining Wizard and Giant Swing are exactly 10 frames though. So you can either buffer a Giant Swing or need to do a perfect Instant Shining Wizard. Which is possible, but it's quite hard to pull off. Should your opponent decide to jump for whatever reason, both options are gonna take your opponent out of the air as well. Oh my god. There we go. So, very powerful mix-up. Down 1 plus 2, you can use them in some situations. As you can see, it has some weird stun to it. Yeah. Leaves yourself at -8 because of a pushback. You could go for backdash movement and try to bait your opponent into whiffing stuff. Otherwise, I don't really recommend using that move because the stumps are just better and they're faster as well. Yeah. Down 3 plus 4-1. So while this is safe on block, if the high whiffs, you just die because your opponent can just crouch and then while standing punish. Or crouch and then go for hop kick or stuff like that. Because if it's -9 on block, it's gonna be even more minus when it whiffs. It takes an eternity to recover. On counter, however, should this connect, leaves you at plus 15 frames and the high becomes guaranteed if the low connects. Which gives you a guaranteed throw a guaranteed throw attempt where you can use every throw to properly mix up your opponent. Doesn't matter which one, every throw is fast enough in that situation. Also, you use that as a pickup in certain situations where down back 2-4 would not connect. You use that as a pickup instead. For opponents who love to crouch a lot, you can go for the low mid variant. On counter, completely natural as well. Wall breaks as well, so powerful tool at war. However, because there is some kind of pushback to it that makes the move a tiny little bit safer, though it's not much. Close to wall, you're gonna die, because that string on its own is launch punishable as well. So the safest option if you're going for down 3 plus 4 would be just going for down 3 plus 4 on its own. You're -5 there, so similar to the down 2 situation. While theoretically you could go for backdash movement, it's very, very difficult and demands high execution. But if you can manage that, you become literally untouchable with Armor King. Like, you get away with murder for free. Yeah. Also, you could go for sidestep because you recover in crouch and then go for sidestep. There are some weird crushing properties to it where you evade the high because you still count as in crouch and then go for the sidestep immediate after, so your opponent is most likely gonna whiff. It depends on the characters you're fighting though, if they've got a quick tool to deal with that mini setup or not. Then we've got Shadow Step. Shadow Step completely crushes highs. It is my Mishima killer, Armor King's Mishima killer basically. So whenever you see Heihachi, Heihachi player. A Mishima player throwing out electrics like mad. Shadow Step is your go-to tool to High Crush Electric and punish with Dark Upper. Alright, first we're gonna cover the different options. We've got Shadow Step 1, that's his fastest he has out of stance, leaves you at +1 for jab string pressure or sidestep movement. On counter hit gives you a guaranteed combo as well. The damage is okayish, but getting someone with counter hit is a bit tricky using that particular move. Because it's a high, it can get ducked as well, and because the mix-up in most situations is the generic Wild Standing 4 and Shadow Step 2, your opponent still either expects a mid or low. So even if he expected the low and he stays in crouch, the high is just gonna whiff and you might get punished for that. So it's a dumb tool. If they increased it to +3 or something like that, then I would actually utilize the shit out of that move. But as it is, at +1 at the moment, it's just not worth the risk. I don't use it. Shadow Step 2 leaves you at +5, so you can go for either full crouch mix up or yeah, countered game basically in that situation. Also on counter hit, hard knockdown into guaranteed grab attempt. You need to micro dash invo or guaranteed stomps. Same situation where though only one stomp is guaranteed. If your opponent decides to roll to the side, oh, this time it worked. Normally that should not connect. The second should be tech rollable. So, yeah, one stomp always guaranteed. With 2 or more it gets risky. Yeah, then we've got Shadow Step 1+2. That's your safe mid basically, because there's no Oki situation for your opponent if you decide to stand up normally, as one would do. You won't get launched or anything like that. However, if you decide to go for that, it can be that your opponent will use a grounded hit to punish you for using that. If this connects, however, leaves you at +6. Should your opponent decide to go for any get-up kick at all, or decide to roll to the side, down 4-2 is gonna clip them. If they decide to stand up normally as well, down 4-2 is gonna clip them. So you use down 4-2 as a guaranteed tool to cash in on some extra damage, and if they decided to go for any get-up kick at all, they're gonna eat a counter hit for additional damage. So it would be 33 damage plus the countered combo. So you would be already at 98 damage. Just because your opponent decided to go for a get-up kick right after. And even if they don't go for it, 49 damage. And if they finally decided to stay on the ground, then it's time for the stomps or your ground grabs. But there you need your read on your opponent if he's gonna stay on the ground or not. In most situations I would suggest always trying out the down 4-2. Alright, then we've got down back 2-3, minus 13, so you can get punished for that. On counter hit, oh my god, on counter hit both hits are guaranteed, leave you at plus 21, so free to do nearly whatever you want to do. What I would suggest if you're playing for hard knockdown, you can go for Fort 4 right after. And if they decide to do any move at all, Fort 4 on counter is gonna connect and you get one guaranteed stomp or guaranteed ground throw attempt. Yeah, also you use that for wall carry. So in certain combos, no, the combo is different. How did I do this again? It's been a while. Ah, right, that is 81 damage plus wall carry, so huge damage. Then we've got down to 4, that's the safe option because it ends on a high. Leaves you at plus 13 on hit, so you could either go for hang on, 10. Yeah, you could either go for Fort 4 to cash in on the counter if they decide to go for it. There are some options that can interrupt you, like long-reaching 13 frame or 12 frame moves. Jabs are gonna whiff though, and you can interrupt them mid-string basically to get the counter. That's against opponents who love to press after eating that. If you are up against a mashy opponent. Also, you could just loop that into each other if they, for some reason, decide to stay in crouch right after. You just throw out another one of these to keep them in the loop. And as soon as they decided to stay on their feet and not crouch anymore, you go for instant Shining Wizard. Or for crouch dash into mix up. Or instant crouch dash 1, or instant crouch dash 2. Those are high throws, so be careful. Crouch dash 4 I won't recommend in that situation. Because if you input it immediately, as you can see, it's just gonna whiff. That's how shitty that move is. The move has not even used in combos, that makes it especially sad. Also, down back 2-4 is your main screw tool. Down back 3 completely crushes size, sometimes, but only sometimes, like once in a blue moon, it can crush mids as well. It's very, very rare to do that though. If you connect this on hit, you get guaranteed crouch mix up, right? The usual. And on counter hit, you get a combo. 73 damage, not bad. There I did less, because I went for down 3+4 as a pickup. So I would suggest going for wild standing 4 and then down back 2-4 instead. Yeah. You can go for dark upper as well. But as you can see, it's a bit trickier. And does the same amount of damage as the easier combo does. And the easier combo is better for wall carry. This combo you would only use for style basically. Otherwise you don't do it. Alright, also this one is one of your homing moves. If this gets blocked, however, you're gonna get launched. It's very minus on block, so watch out for that. Down back 4 is one of Armor King's most annoying moves against opponents. If you hit that, you can hold down to stay in crouch, and should your opponent decide to go for any get up kick at all, you check them with while standing 2. If they went for a get up kick, the counter hit is gonna clip them. Yeah, if this connects on counter hit, you get a guaranteed ground throw attempt. You need to cancel out of his crouch throw because he recovers in crouch. Otherwise you're not in range. Like that. If you want to go for guaranteed damage, you need to crouch cancel and then go for stomps. 1 is always guaranteed. 2 in this specific situation are guaranteed as well, but you really need to get your shit together regarding stomps, at which time you're gonna use how much. So there you go for 2 stomps, there you only go for 1 because it's gonna get side rolled, and in that situation going for 2 I would not recommend, go for 1 instead. When we've got down back 1 plus 2. Down back 1 plus 2 is your better pressure tool, because we're talking about forward 4, that leaves you at plus 2, so your opponent would be able to interrupt you if you are going for down forward 1, right? If you go for stomping headbutt though, and they try to utilize the mid against you to interrupt you, you're gonna be fast and catch them out. If they try to interrupt you with highs, that's what your back 1 is for, to keep them in check. Also, should that connect on hit, 2 guaranteed stomps. Same situation as 1 plus 2, 2. Also, if you manage to get 2 guaranteed stomps against an opponent that lies on the floor, you get a floor break as well. So if you connect the headbutt, that's, let's see, 51 damage plus the floor break into another combo. So huge damage there. Also, if your opponent is turtling a lot, you can cancel out of the headbutt by holding down to go for his shadow step mix-up, where you either use the low or while standing 4 to mix your opponent up. Or you can hold down forward right after to go for his crouch dash options, like the lariat, dark upper, knee, or even the unblockable if you feel like it, like your opponent is turtling a lot. If you really want to cancel into cancel, you could cancel the headbutt into an unblockable and cancel out of that, then go for forward 2, 4, 3, cancel out of that, and then do whatever you'd like. Because at that point, if your opponent didn't interrupt you even once, you fucked with his mind and he's gonna turtle like crazy. Because he doesn't know what's coming next, he's waiting for one move to connect on block. That just doesn't happen at that point, you know? Alright, that was that. Back 1, 2 is one of your main punishers. If your opponent is minus 12 or worse, you go for that. Otherwise, back 1, guaranteed counted combo. Guaranteed counted combo. Yeah. You get a guaranteed combo out of counted. This one you use if you want to stay on the same side. If you want to switch sides, you need to wait a bit, do the flip, and then do the usual stuff. Does a bit less damage as well. Yeah. Also, if you are sure you're getting the counted you can go for Shadow Step 2 to get even more damage. But you kinda need the read on when you're going to get your opponent with that, because going into Shadow Step and then doing Shadow Step 2 takes up a lot of frames. Also, if back 1-2 connects, feel free to mix like usual or fish with counters with back 1 or down 4-2. Also, back 1 on block is still safe and you could parry right after. Back 1-2 isn't safe, however. It's -12 as is down 4-2. Back 2-1-2, completely safe on block. If you do the full string, if you only do the first two, -12, so your opponent can punish you for that. Because there's no mix-up option for the ender, and the ender is always gonna be a high, most people are gonna wait for the high to punish you. You can heavily delay the high if you feel like it, because the high on its own doesn't even need to be counted. Screws as well. If the string connects uncounted, however. Oh my god. It's huge damage. Yeah. If only the first two connect, you're not even plus, you're just -1. So you can sidestep and then go for poking pressure if you feel like it. Back 3 is safe against every character except Fahkumram, because Fahkumram is so big, his jabs have a lot of range, they're still gonna catch you. Also, that move is a high, so it can be ducked and while standing punished. If your opponent decides to hold back, you can go for guaranteed forward 4, but you need to do a deep dash in to actually get that. What you can do instead is go for shoulder. Shoulder will always connect. It's a lot easier as well. Does a bit less damage though than forward 4. Yeah. Back 4, back 4 is safe on block, and if you are able to confirm into the stunner, as you can see, if your opponent decides to stand up immediately right after, he's actually gaining some additional distance, leaving you at your preferred range, because it leaves you in range for forward 2-1 and down back 2-4, dark upper, lariat, stuff like that, right? Back 1+2 is a gimmick, you could say, as is while standing 3. Leaves you at +1, so you can go for jab string pressure, the throw mix-up between giant swing and instant shining wizard, if you're feeling confident. It's tricky though. There we go. Yeah, uncountered you get a guaranteed dark upper. I suck though, so I can't do it. Like in-game I will always drop that one. It's pretty shit for me. I mainly use it for pressure. If you are not confident in your execution, same as me, you can just go for 4-1 if you are aiming for hard knockdowns. Down back 2-4. Or even hop kick, because hop kick has been buffed. The range of it. Sometimes it will connect, but only sometimes. Dark upper is the most reliable launch in that situation. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. This one is your get out of jail for free card. It crushes highs, it evades... No, it crushes lows because he takes his front foot off the ground. It evades highs because he takes a step to the side as well. And evades... He evades highs and mids because he takes a step to the side. God damn, I can't talk for shit today. Also, if this should connect, you get a guaranteed forward 4, guaranteed shoulder, ground grab attempt, or even unblockable if you are a setup kind of guy. The unblockable can be interrupted by while standing forward, so watch out for that. Yeah, was there something else? Also on block, it's minus 13. Most people don't know that, and most of the time it's gonna push back like crazy, so most people are gonna whiff their punishers. So if you do it from... The fucker's evading me. Okay. Is there a neutral standing guard? Somehow, perhaps. So basically what I wanted to show, what the game doesn't let me show, because it guards as soon as I do any kind of input at all. And they tap back. Because of the long wind up of animation, he takes a step back. Because that move has decent pushback, you're basically safe against most people. At close range you're not safe, however, most people think you are, but you aren't. You can get punished for that. Great tool overall, though, if it connects. Yeah, Dark Destroyer is pretty useless. It has next to no range, it's linear as fuck. You can cancel out of that for countered game though. Like, that's one use I found for it. It's very risky to do though. Backup one, he does a little step to the side, but you barely evade anything. The only use I found for that is, well, it has some homing capabilities, but forward 3 is just the better move, you know. If this connects, however, same as back 1+4, guaranteed shoulder or guaranteed forward 4, or guaranteed grab attempt, stomps, whatever you feel like, right? What you can do, however, if you want to get even more evasive, is sidestep and then go for backup one. Yeah. Besides that, I don't see that much use for it. Like, I never use this move. Then we've got the classic elbow drop. It's great for getting out of pressure in certain situations, or just ending the round. Most of the time I'm using it to end the round. Yeah, then we've got up forward 3, where you can parry right after if you're feeling risky, otherwise, yeah, back to the defensive you go. Uncounted, guaranteed combo. Also, it's one of your distance closing moves, basically, from range 3. As you can see, it has deceptively large range. Most people are not gonna expect a mid from that distance. A jumping one. If this connects on hit, +5, so feel free to set up countered games or continue with your usual poking pressure. Yeah. Well, hop kick, it's pretty shit, but it's there. Should you block a low that's -15, you can't go for while standing 1. You actually need to utilize the hop kick to get the launch in those kind of situations. On block, as most hop kicks, it's -13. Yeah, then with Capital Punishment should leave you at +2 on block. Yeah. +2 and forces crouch. So right after, feel free to sidestep to kind of see what your opponent is doing and punish him accordingly with either shoulder or down forward 1 if you go for frame advantage. If you confirmed that down forward 1 hit, you can go for heavy hitting counters as well, like down forward 3. If the move on its own connects, you get a combo as well, so it's a normal hit mid-launcher. It's very linear, so it's steppable, walkable to the side. You can get jabbed out of it, you can get screw moved out of it, so use that one with care. In situations where you're out of effective get-up kick range out of your opponent, you can wait for your opponent to do any movement at all and then throw Capital Punishment out. So that's an option you have there. Then you've got an unblockable version. This one mostly you're going to use for setups. I don't utilize it. You can check out some other YouTube vids for that. Up forward 3+4 is more of a meme. Yeah, I haven't really found any use for it at the moment still, because even if your opponent goes for... let's check. I might have gotten an idea actually. Alright, for some reason mids become guaranteed. Might be because of the Oki situation. We actually might have found something new here. I can't believe it, we found something new. We made a meme move usable. That's so dumb. Alright, how's he standing up? Ah, he has his back turned towards us. So it's an Oki trap. I didn't know that. that was news to me. Safe on block, but everything's safe on block basically if it throws you to the ground in a situation where you don't need to think about how you stand up. Like with the tackle, there you would actually need to pay attention on when you stand up, because you've put yourself into a bad Oki situation for yourself. This, however, seems to be actually a decent move. That's so dumb. I'm gonna try and land that against someone in the near future, just to see what the reaction is gonna be towards it. Alright, then we've got forward neutral 2. Forward neutral 2 is one of his main pressure tools. You can do it out of wave dash as well. I would highly recommend using it out of wave dash as well, because without it, if someone does 2 steps then stops to do something, it's always gonna be below. There's no other options, because the forward 2 is pretty much immediate. So if there's a little gap, right, your opponent is always gonna go for the low parry. So use it out of wave dash to confuse your opponent, because out of wave dash you can... Oh my god. There we go. Ah, I had a thinking mistake. Alright. You can do it pretty much immediately. So after the wave dash, first crouch dash, wave dash, you just press another time forward and do 2 immediately at the same time. If you tap forward and then press 2, then you're gonna get below. It takes some practice though. Alright. Also on countered, this becomes a launcher. On normal hit, +7, feel free to set up heavy hitting counters. Forward 2. Safe mid. This should be one of your main tools. very short range though, so make sure that you're close to your opponent. Forward, forward 3 leaves you at +2 on block. On normal hit, it becomes a launch. If you hold down, you go into Shadow Step, and even if you go into Shadow Step, you can still get the pickup with Shadow Step 2. The combos from the suck though. Looks pretty shitty as well. What you could do in these kind of situations is, however, go for stuff like that. So down forward 1 to sidestep to kind of Oki trap them. But depending on how your opponent stands up, it's risky. So I don't recommend using that. Then we've got forward, forward 4. -14, but because of pushback, most opponents are hesitant to actually punish that move, so it's pseudo-safe, you could say. Forward, forward 1+2 is good as a round ender. Wouldn't utilize that close to the wall, because your opponent will be able to stand up faster than you. Because if you hit your opponent, the standing animation triggers on its own. You can't cancel out of it, you can't do nothing. So your opponent will wake up before you and hop kick the shit out of you for trying that while being close to the wall. So watch out for that. Forward, forward 3+4 is another meme move, you could say, -10, but because it leaves you in that particular grounded position, you can go for the low for sneaky launch. It's a bit obvious though, so yeah. It's one of those setups that's very obvious, so use with care. What would be less obvious is whiffing the move on purpose and then going for it. That's an option, because your opponent realizes, alright, he's on the ground, I need to check what my grounded moves are and then go for the grounded move. And you utilize that thinking time of your opponent to go for the low. On block, however, your opponent is like, alright, I blocked a move and he is on the ground. Like, the additional block sound gives your opponent more time to think. It's a mental thing. So if you whiff it, your chances are better to get the low off. So you can use that to close the distance. Crouch dash 1 leaves you at +7. You can go lariat into lariat. Forward 4-2 I wouldn't recommend because the range, it's just not there. You could utilize forward 3 if your opponent decides to step to the side for any reason at all. You can go for forward 2-1. That's a bit more on the obvious side though. And if your opponent only backdashes once, the mid is gonna whiff and then he could duck the high in theory to punish you. There are people in higher ranks who do that, that's why I'm mentioning it here. If this connects at max distance, the lariat becomes a launcher as well. Yeah. Yeah, also you use that in combos to do more damage. After Dark Upper, for example. That's where it's most commonly used. Yeah. 11-12 frames. It's basically the cheap electric imitation. Only that this is punishable at -10. But 11-12 frames, if you're crazy good, you could punish -11, -12, -13 frames. If you buffer and do everything perfectly. I can't do it myself. But in theory, really great move. Otherwise, this is your main long range with punish. Yeah, the unblockable we talked a bit about. If you hold back, similar to the 4-2-4-3 string, if you hold back, you're gonna cancel out of unblockable. Yeah, you can kinda use that to mess with your opponents. If you have an opponent who immediately panic when they see the shiny unblockable, you can bait them into using unsafe moves and then punish them for trying unsafe moves against you. Yeah, the knee is completely safe on block. Can't go for parries, can't go for sidestep, blocking is the only option. If it connects on hit, guaranteed shoulder, ground grab attempt, all 3 stomps guaranteed, or 4-4-4. But 4-4-4 is quite difficult in that situation. As you can see, the leg just goes through. There are some hitbox issues in certain situations. Yeah. Poison Mist is another one of his mean moves, basically. You can get that to do that to gain some free pressure. So if your opponent decides to move right after, or press anything at all, he's gonna eat the mid string. Yeah, also you could go for counters, like up 4-3 if you want your opponent to run into your counter, or down 4-2. But there, in both situations, you rely on your opponent running into the counter itself, because he was trying something for himself. Then we've got running 3. This is one of his key pressure tools. You can chain those together if you got the instant while running motion down. Very unsafe. Very good to free pressure, basically. Also, you've got different options. You can either go for pressure and to counter it with forward neutral 2. You can go for counter hits on their own right. You can continue with your poking game, or you can just back off, check what they're doing. If they did something out of panic, you punish them with Dark Upper. Alright, triple forward 3+4 leaves you at crazy plus frames for some reason, but doesn't give you anything guaranteed. Also, your get up 3+4 leaves you back turned against your opponent, so very risky to use. Yeah, then you've got Armor King's version of a slide. Yeah, it is what it is, I guess. If the slide connects, I suggest just standing up by holding back. If your opponent tried to go for a get up kick, use forward up 1+2 to punish them for that. Or Dark Upper, but so if they went for while standing 4, Dark Upper. If they went for, no, not while standing 4, get up 4. If they went for get up 3, however, you go for capital punishment. Alright. Yeah. That's one of his while standing launchers. Unsafe at -10. It sucks. I don't like it. When you've got Wild Standing 2, that's a safe counter tool. Also, if you land the counter hit and hold up, you do that key charge animation. And after you hold up, you just input Dark Upper, so crouch dash 2. And then he does that improved version of Dark Upper. Also, I think the frames on that are a bit different. Yeah, leaves you at +1 and leaves you on key charge. There is something... There's another secret to it as well. If you go for his Mist Breath, so his quarter circle forward, so normally you would do crouch dash 1+2, right? But for the flame throwing one, you go for quarter circle forward 1+2. Depending on the distance, it leaves you at different plus frames as well. So very close range is just +3. If you do it from more range. So max range is +20 apparently. Oh crap. I'm just checking if I can... maybe I should go for the Lariat there. Ah no. Close to the wall you might be able to get something there, like a free wall splat, but it's very situational. Also, if Wild Standing 2 connects on its own, you're +3, so feel free to harass with down forward 1 or jab strings. Full crouch forward 2, incredibly good tool. You can wave dash towards your opponent, right? Decide to stay in crouch and then go for that. Because you stay in crouch, your opponent expects some sort of mix-up, but is not sure. And if he guesses wrong, he basically just dies. What's so great about that move is that it results in high amounts of damage and is +1 on block. Most people are going to press something after they blocked that, so it's a cheeky pressure tool similar to back 1+2 or Wild Standing 3. Also, out of crouch dash, remember you can do all your Wild Standing moves if you wait a bit. For 2 and 1 you actually need to wait a bit, right? Because otherwise you're going to get Lariat or Dark Upper. For 4 and 3 you don't need to wait, and as soon as you let go of directional input, you're going to get their respectively Wild Standing options. Then we've got the Death Sandwich. Leaves your opponent in crouch on block, is -13 volume, so characters like Kazuya, 2D characters, Eddie, Josie, those characters are going to launch punish you for that. This is, however... Oh. This is, however, launch. So you can combo from that. Then we've got Wild Standing 4. This is -12, but becomes safe at the max range, because your opponent won't have a range to actually punish you. On counter hit, it becomes a launch as well. Yeah. Then we've got Sidesteps 3+4. That's another one of those meme moves. I was thinking about on how to get a combo from there, but so far I haven't found anything. Getting the roll right is a pain in the ass as well. There might be something, but I haven't found anything yet. That we already talked about. That we talked about as well. Stomps we talked about. Yeah, his 10 hit is... okay-ish, I could say. But I don't like that one as much as I like this one right here. Has a lot more style as well, and if your opponent gets hit by even one mid after the low... oh my god, it has a lot of range. Jesus Christ. So if your opponent gets hit by the second two, I think... the rest of the 10 hit string becomes guaranteed. Very, very powerful at the wall. Yeah, those are his different grabs. In most situations it leaves you at neutral. Let me check. What was it? So in situations where you seem to have good OP, like here, you actually have pretty shitty OP. With 1+3, you actually get some OP in that situation, as you can see. But it's not completely guaranteed. As you can see, I'm spamming the input and it doesn't work, so you actually need to wait for the animation to play out and then do your input. Getting the timing for that is a bit tricky though, as you can see. Damn it. I'm trying to do it with a hop kick at the moment, but I keep fucking up the inputs. Yeah. So it's a guaranteed OP setup that still requires some skill, because you can't just spam. Well, you can with a hop kick, but with the other options you can't really spam. Then we've got the 2+4 grab. In that situation I would actually just backdash and then punish, because you put your opponent at a certain range. With a 1+3 grab you don't have that option. It will always connect on block. Then you've got a different version where you are actually -10, so no movement for you. In that situation, it already leaves you at the range, at a certain amount of range. With this, you still need to backdash. There you're actually +3, so theoretically you could still spam hop kick and get a launch for free should the opponent decide to try something. But sometimes the hitboxes are just weird and you're gonna get hit still. So there are some issues. With this you put your opponent at a range, you wait for him to do his get up kick and then punish accordingly. So with Armor King in most situations after grab, you're just backing off to see what your opponent's doing. With Tomb Driver you need to go back into block. Like, it looks like you can pressure still, right? But you're always gonna get clipped. Doesn't matter what you're going for. So there you need to go on the defense. If I see an Armor King player who continues pressing buttons after that particular throw, I know he doesn't know Armor King very well. With the DDT, it leaves you at +10, so your get-up kicks will always be faster than your opponent's. So you can get a countered launch for free, should your opponent decide to try something. Hades drop is good at breaking walls. If your opponent decides to do a get-up kick from that range, he's an idiot, and he deserves to get launched in that situation. Giant Swing is Giant Swing. Brilliant Brawler Kick, that's Instant Shining Wizard, we already talked about a bit. Maybe a bit more to Instant Shining Wizard. There are 3 versions to do that move from close range. You either do it out of the crouch dash, right? So I do crouch dash, I press forward, and as soon as I press forward, I do the... Oh my god. I do forward 2+4, right? Needs to happen at exactly the same frame rate, so take some practice. If you can do that, however, you are going to look sick as fuck. Then there are 2 other versions, which are mostly used in combos. I'm gonna start with the one I don't use. Forward, neutral, that means you wait. Another forward input, and on the last forward input you press 2+4. So forward, I wait. Oh my god. Did they get rid of it? Or am I just bad? I don't know. Alright, the version I'm going with is I do 1 forward input and then forward 2+4. So forward neutral and then forward 1+4. On the last forward input 2+4 immediately at the same time. God damn it. That's something you need to regularly practice well, because it is quite hard. The closer you are to your opponent, the more difficult it becomes. If there's a bit of range, it gets a bit easier, so 1 backdash makes it already a lot easier to get the Instant Shining Wizard. If you're face to face, it gets incredibly hard to get out. As you can see, I'm having issues to get the throw out. There, I got one. So this takes a lot of practice. Alright, then we've got the Armor King driver. 1 backdash and you're out of the effective get-up kick range. So backdash and punish. Then we've got crouch grabs. King has a move where he puts opponents into crouch and gets a guaranteed crouch grab. We don't do that here. We don't have that, right? What we can do, however, if our opponent is... Alright, let's say it that way. With Armor King, one of his main... He has 3 main problems, right? He is very duckable, he's very steppable, and his while standing punishers suck. Like most of the time, while standing 4 is the best you've got, right? So what do we do against opponents who abuse lows that leave them in crouch? but are -12 or -13, right? Against people like that, we're using the crouching grabs. Because they recover and crouch, you can utilize those grabs to attempt a punish. Your opponent can still break those grabs though, so you need to watch out. Also, utilizing grabs to punish, you need to get used to first. It's a bit weird, because you let go of the back input after the block, and then just hold down and go for the grab immediately. This floor breaks, by the way, as does the other crouching grab. Alright. Yeah, the stand up we already know. Leaves you at +8. We need to select a stage with walls soon, so I can show on how to utilize those grabs. Yeah, let's switch to wall stage first.
Get ready for the next battle.
So, at the wall, the grab combo goes like this. Jab into ground grab, right? The special thing about that little bounce you get when you hit your opponent's head against the wall is you actually gain some plus frames at that moment. And those plus frames give you some guaranteed stuff. For example, 2-1 becomes guaranteed. As you can see, it counts as a 3-hit combo, 1 hit being the wall bounce itself. Another option would be back 1-2, but this one is quite hard to get because the timing needs to be perfect. If you get that though, it's a lot of damage. What makes Armor King very scary at the wall is that after that wall bounce, down back 2-4, if they try to press anything at all, down back 2-4 is always gonna catch them. That's when they duck or try to interrupt you, right? If they ducked, and it's gonna be a shitty situation because we can just leave this as long as they don't break it, right? So that sucks for our opponent. As soon as our opponent knows, alright, he's gonna go for the mids instead, that's when we are going for our throw mix-up game. As you can see, with the Hades drop, there's some stun to it. And after the 2 stomps, you're considered plus, so even if they go for the get-up kick, your mids are still gonna be faster. So you can do stuff like this. You could even go for hop kick, but as you can see, trades. So 14 frame moves would work in that situation. Hello, and thank you for the follow. So, after connecting the Hades drop and getting 2 guaranteed stomps, 14 frame moves are the slowest move that will still connect. So that's a cheeky way to collect some plus frames. Sure, we can do that. Alright. Right, grab game. So the 2 grab is to pick your opponent up. Against very defensive opponents there is a different setup I like to use a lot. You can pick your opponent up and then go for a Frankensteiner. Should your opponent stay on the ground or try to stand up normally without you utilizing the get up kick, the unblockable is guaranteed, because it tracks quite a lot to the side as well. So that's 94 damage. And that was from an immediate wall split, so we didn't even carry our opponent with a combo towards the wall and then go for the setup. So that's a lot of damage. If our opponent starts breaking our pickup grab, and most people are going for that because they fear that pickup, they fear getting pushed against the wall and being in that pressure situation all the time, you mix it with a one grab. The thing with a one grab is you switch positions, so as soon as you switch positions, you need to go for the lariat just to push yourself away from the wall. Because as you can see, you can shove your opponent back away from the wall. Also, Lariat becomes incredibly thoughts of himself videos. I've watched some, I think, but not everyone. I think I saw one or two, but those were being about King and not Armor King. The Lariat becomes incredibly useful at the wall because there's no more place to push your opponent back, right? So when you've got your opponent at the wall, you can mix it with forward 4-2, down back 2-4. You could even go for 4-2-1, stuff like that. Grabs are great at the wall as well. With against +6, there's nowhere for your opponent to escape to. He won't have time to step to the side as well because he's that minus. Also regarding the 10 hit. If the 10 hit connects, like after the high kick, need some distance first. If the mid kick connects, the follow up is guaranteed. And that makes that particular 10 hit string incredibly powerful at the wall. As you can see, this time I connected the high first and the entire string got blocked. $106 damage, and that's from a 10 hit string where our opponent guessed strong and ate the mid. Armor King is my main, Kunimitsu is my sub, and every other character I play for fun. I play a shit ton of characters well. Alright, that was his wall game basically, most of it. Now we can do floor break and then we're through, I think. Thank you. Thank you very much for the follow.
Get ready for the next battle.
Alright, very nice. Marduk I've played a bit myself as well, but my Marduk is nothing special. Alright, just gonna show the different grabs that floor break. So the headbutt, down forward 3+2 wall breaks, floor breaks I mean, sorry. Ah crap, I need to change the restart option. His 2+4 down 1+2 should floor break as well. Yeah. Tombstone, that's his down back forward 2+4. Floor breaks for massive amounts of damage. I have Discord, yes. What else was there? Hades drop wall breaks. Ah, right. We talked about 2 stomps leading to floor break as well. So after 1+2 connects, you get 2 guaranteed stomps, and after Hades drop at the wall, you get 2 guaranteed stomps as well. So that's very good as well. Did I miss something? Ah, right. The Pale Driver here. Floor breaks as well, and the 2 crouching throws do as well. Just... ah, right. Need to reset all the objects. I'm gonna send the Discord in a bit after I'm done, and then we can meet in the Discord and play some matches if you want. Do you mind those matches being on stream, or should I switch stream off? That used to floor break. Apparently it doesn't anymore. This should still do the trick well. Yeah. So down 2+4 does no longer floor break apparently. Guess Armor King got the stealth nerf at some point. But 1+3 still floor breaks. Ah, alright, then it's fair game.